Hold on. Dave forgot to assign the sounds to channel 4. All right, kids, where's the sound button? There it is, this one. Because I went to hit the, and I was like, oops, that button is not available. All right. Now we can go. Hi, kids. Ask the Podcast Coach for July 19th, 2025.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that music. It is Saturday morning. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from theschoolofpodcasting.com, and joining me right over there is the one and only Jim Cullison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. I think today's my brother's birthday. I better reach out.
I'm going to say, that's one of those things you... I actually did a thing where my brother's is next week, and I've already bought him something. I bought him a bunch of Amazon, like, smart plugs, because he needed them. And I'm like, don't buy those, because it's hard when you get old to find something. And so I bought him something again. So I'm going to surprise him with another surprise gift. And you know what would be a great gift if you needed something for your brother?
Some coffee, maybe?
Some coffee, maybe. Absolutely. And, we'll do the fun. There we go.
Sorry, a little out of practice.
That is. We're a little rusty. And that's here. Speaking of out of practice, come on, there we go. Yeah, I'm on the wrong slide. I got to go all the way back to this one to talk about our good friend Mark over at podcastbranding.co because, they see you before they hear you. And Mark is a great guy. That's just number one. Just go give him money because he's a nice, polite Canadian, but also it's a great bonus that he is an award-winning graphic artist. He's been a podcaster for, I think, 9 years now, something like that. Over 500 pieces of art, but he does so much more than just do, podcast artwork. If you want an entire website, he can do that. If you need, I saw somebody today on Reddit, they're going to do a media kit. I'm like, oh, you know what? You should call Mark, because Mark is the guy to go. Really, 30 years in the design field, and he just does a great job. He's going to sit down with you one-on-one. You're not going to get that from some guy on Fiverr. And to make sure that all the artwork, all the different visuals he makes are in a line with your brand. And if you don't have a brand, he'll help you make one. Look, there's only one place to go, and that is Mark over at podcastbranding.co. Tell him Dave and Jim sent you.
And a big thanks to our good friend Dan Lefebvre over there, based on a true story podcast.com. I mentioned this 2 weeks ago. We were off last week, but Titanic is out there and available for you. Titanic, Mark B. Berry is the guest. And if you want to know, based on the old movie Titanic, how much of that based on a true story, they talk about that. Guess what? They talk about that there. Check it out this weekend or whenever. Check it out today. Based on a true story podcast.com. And Dan, thanks for your sponsorship. Dave, you mentioned plugs, Amazon plugs. You were talking about your brother and Amazon plugs. This week, I've been working on one of my new things I've been working on for Home Gadget Geeks is some solar power. Solar was super cheap during the Prime days, so I bought a couple panels just to test some things out with. And one of the things I did, because I want to test out my battery, I'm going to feed, the battery has a solar input. That's how I'm going to test it out. So there's a lot more details there. We can get into that at some other time. But one of the things I bought was those Amazon plugs that actually measures the output of what's coming out of the plug. And I think a recommendation I might have for a podcaster is something to do in your studio. If you route everything to a single plug, or maybe you're running it through a battery backup or whatever, you can put these plugs in and kind of measure the total output of your studio, or input, depending on how you look at it. But not a bad idea, just to see, like, how much power am I really drawing with my studio? Am I getting things shut off? Am I running stuff that doesn't need to be run there? How much power does that Rodecaster take, kind of deal? Doesn't break it down by it's not like one of these sensing modules that breaks it down by piece of equipment. But I just found it really helpful in the studio just to kind of get an idea of, hey, what's my total watt hour output in the studio, and could I reduce it if I needed to? You don't have to if you don't want to, but
Well,
Could I
especially
reduce it? Or are there things running?
when you have 11 monitors,
Yeah,
that could be.
yeah. Hey, you know what I know? I know those 11 monitors represent about 200 watts in power. When I shut them all down, it drops, goes down pretty good. Some of those monitors are attached to laptops, so you got to shut off everything to get it done. Yeah, but it's kind of, listen, if you're into that space,
Yeah.
or you just want to know, I mean, they're handy and they're $10. So it's not like,
Wow.
yeah, I got 2 for $20, and so you can give that a try if you kind of want to, kind of power nerd out on your studio setup. Just like, how much power am I taking podcasting? If you want to know, I bought a TP Link, and it's a Tapo. That's kind of, I think, their new brand on this Tapo, TAPO. 2 for $20. It was pretty reasonable. Not a bad thing to do to kind of check, like, hey, do I got runaway things going on here? What's my setup taking? Inquiring minds want to know.
There you go. Ralph, I am going to tie this into podcasting, honest. Ralph says, hey, Dave, I want to hear more about your walk through Chicago and the 3 ugly strippers. And that is, I did a Building a Better Dave episode about this. I got lost in Chicago, and there was a sign that said Deja Vu Showgirls, hundreds of beautiful girls and 3 ugly ones. And I was like, well, there you go, truth in advertising. But on the other hand, I had something really cool this week. I think the new drug is authenticity. It's never gone out of style, but I think everybody just appreciates the truth in a world where we're kind of not sure what's what. And I'm trying to find a company. Eventually, I'm going to have to start doing payroll at the School of Podcasting. I'm now an S Corp and blah, blah, blah. And I was using Waves for my invoicing. It's worked great. And literally the day I signed the paperwork on my S Corp, their payroll feature apparently has taken a giant, crap. And like when you go into their help desk, they're like, we're experiencing lots of calls due to, our payroll thing. And I was like, oh, I was going to use that. And so in looking at the other, and I wish I could remember, I want to say it's like Odoo. If Daniel's around, Daniel, because they have all these free apps. And then if you want to use more than one, you have to pay for it, kind of thing. And I think Daniel uses them for something, but it's like Odoo or something. Anyway, so I get the guy, we do a discovery call. And I'm like, yeah, really what I need is payroll. And he goes, I'm going to be honest with you right up front. He goes, we have a payroll app. He goes, it's not our best feature. And I was like, yeah, because I'm looking, he goes, yeah, we don't do that. And it was like, wow, that's I appreciate that. I go, while I got you here, explain to me what else you do. And they do everything. They'll build your website. They'll do e-commerce. They do a CRM and all that. But I just love the fact the guy was like, instead of going, oh yeah, we can do that, and then, run to his developers and go, how are we going to do that? It was just refreshing to have somebody go, yeah, that's not, I don't want to lead you down this path. And so I think that's really I saw a couple articles this week. I did some research on is SEO dead? And no, it's not. It's changing. It's definitely changing, but ChatGPT and stuff are still kind of doing web searches behind the scenes. And one of the things the article said is, which is what I've been saying, lean into your humanness, inject your personal stories. Don't have AI write a story for you. But it's all about being authentic. So, yeah. And if you're in Chicago, any city in America is a great place to get shot. But don't stray too far from that.
The odds are a little higher in Chicago.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see. They're talking about TP Link in the chat room.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, good.
My brother bought some kind of off-brand, smart things.
Yeah.
And I just bought I'm so bummed. I got home. I don't even know what the brand is, but my giant suitcase that I've had for at least 8 years, the zipper just was like, yeah, we're done. And it's stuck half, I can't really open it. I have to either get scissors. Why am I going to get scissors? Because it's ridiculous. I can't. I'm pulling all my clothes out of this little tiny hole. And Luggage is not cheap. And so I saw where there was an Amazon, like for the one I want, that's like 30 inches tall by 20. It's like I can fit a week's worth of clothes in here, and if you're looking at Samsonite, it's like $200. And then I saw kind of the same thing, Amazon Basics, $80. And I put that in my cart instantly. And then I went down and read the reviews. And it was pretty consistent that the wheels fall off and the zippers aren't great. And I was like, I'd rather buy one that lasts 10 years than, have to go through buying another one and another one. I
don't know. Like luggage is one of those things that it's kind of a fashion, or it can be if you travel a lot.
It can be
kind of a fashion statement. So you sometimes wonder, maybe it is better to pay twice over 10 years.
Yeah, that's true.
Having one that's half the price. I don't know. That way you get to kind of switch it out. Everybody's got the black bag, right? That you go, and as soon as you're coming off the carousel, it's like everybody's black bags.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good. We bought. Sarah's reminding me. She's listening to me. She says we bought bright green luggage, which you can see anywhere except the rollers from if it's raining outside or whatever. It shows the dirt pretty easily. So you can kind of stay on top of that.
Yeah, I will put a School of Podcasting sticker on mine and other things just to help it stand out.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Chris says Amazon Basics or Amazon Essentials are usually slightly better than Temu.
Slightly better.
That was it. I was like, oh, it's cheap Chinese crap. Yeah, throw that in my cart. Yeah. So that was one that I was like, but I was bummed. I was like, oh, I've had that and I don't really want it. That's like one of those things like, okay, I get it. I definitely got my money's worth out of it because I've had that for a while. And I thought all the trips I've done at Libsyn and things like that. So I was like, well, you got to do
They
what
eventually
you gotta
wear
do.
out. They eventually wear out, right? I mean, they take a beating. Could you imagine if it was you going through all those processes that those bags go through? You wouldn't stand a chance.
Yeah. Well, we do have, I thought this is an interesting question. It's a startup founder. He says, I'm a founder of an early age startup and I'm creating a podcast in my niche within technology. The purpose is for creating thought leadership in my area. Okay, got it. I'm the host of the podcast, and I have several guests who've already recorded this week or will record their episodes. We are batch recording several episodes next week for releasing them in the coming months on a weekly basis, launching near the end of summer, which is interesting that he's just got the interviews, so that's fine. The name of the podcast will be separate to the name of my startup, but it will be descriptive about my topic. That makes sense. It's a video podcast, as most episodes are recorded in person, but a few will be over Zoom. I'll be uploading the episodes on Spotify and YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Instagram Reels, and TikTok. My topic will be special interest to 2 different types of technical audiences, but it will also be accessible for others more generally, as many episodes are interesting for many people. Okay, that's always interesting. But again, still kind of on the right path. My question is, should I record my podcast as my startup or as myself, but sponsored by my startup? In other words, should it be my startup's podcast or my own podcast? I've seen it done both ways in my area by others, so I don't quite understand the implications of this decision. There's still so much space for a podcast with my topic as my niche is very up and coming, blah, 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 blah. So I think, in my opinion, we'll see if we agree, I think it would sound better. There are 2 things. I would make it his podcast because remember, he said he wants to be a thought leader. So let it be his brand, brought to you by his company. And that way, in the event things go stupendous and he ends up selling his startup, he can still have his own show. Now, I don't know how often that happens, but to me, just like brought to you by, blah, blah, blah. And then he can introduce himself as I'm the founder of blah, blah, blah company. And pretty much within, 3 minutes, oh, well, this is really the official show of that company. I don't know. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, I like your idea. You want to go back to us on the
I just want to stare at this all day till my cornea is.
I mean, not that we're any better looking,
right?
But maybe you are better looking. Yeah, I like that idea. I mean, that could work. I wouldn't shy away. like the odds of you being more successful than your startup and separating those
Right.
two or whatever. You can always start another podcast, right? I think the key is don't miss it. Don't miss the brand opportunity with the business. That's, okay. You becoming a thought leader, like a Simon Sinek or like a fill in the blank of these thought gurus that we have out
Right.
there right now. But the odds of you being one of those are probably a little bit less than your startup actually doing something. So I would think I would pour my attention into the branding around the startup. If you become thought leader, you can create your own new podcast about your thoughts, and people are fine with that. I think it would be harder to go the other way. And your business, I mean, gosh, I think that's where you and I were talking earlier about money and podcasting and how everything's being driven towards the ad space.
Yeah.
Listen, the merch or the product space is where it's at. Let's just be really, really clear. Like, I mean, it takes a lot of downloads to get any money for advertising. But if you have a product that you're selling and you are able to, I think about Dave Garofalo or at Cigar Authority and I mean, that's all based on a product. They get a lot of downloads, but if they were just advertising, not the value.
Yeah.
The value. No, not the value.
This is 2,400 downloads, right? My book. If I had a $5 CPM, so programmatic ads, this would be 2,400 downloads. So I always go, what's easier, selling one book or getting 2,400 downloads? I get it. But yeah, Uncle Marv had a great point that I was like, he said, or he changes companies or gets sponsored. Yeah, that'd be kind of weird. Like, hey, welcome to the Pepsi show brought to you by Coca-Cola. Like, that would be awkward. But if it's your own show, you can kind of like, hey, guess what? My competition is paying me more than my actual company. That'd be weird. It would still be very weird, but it's another thing to think about.
It's different if it's your product versus your, I think in the retail space, you're selling other people's products. So now those folks, they're competitors with each other, not necessarily with you. And so you can get them as sponsors, right? That's, again, in that space, that's a pretty good, I don't know why more companies don't do that, where, especially in the retail space, and then have the retailers sponsor them. They'll do that. That's the real ad money right there. Is not in sponsored ads. I mean, it is. Some folks are making it work, right, for whatever, but most of it, yeah, I'd go towards the brand. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Rich Graham, speaking of merch, there's a guy that knows a thing or two about merch. People follow people, not brands.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of. I agree with you, Rich, in a lot of ways in the podcasting space, but man, brand is strong, and all you have to say is Apple, right?
Well, or Harley Davidson.
For sure.
When my friend comes to town, the first I got to go to the Harley store. I'm like, why? He goes, I need a Harley Akron shirt. And I'm like,
can you name one person at Harley Davidson, Dave? But you know the brand,
right?
Yeah,
yeah, and that's
So
that's a crazy brand.
I do agree with you, Rich. I do. Yeah. I totally agree with you that people do follow people, but man, a strong brand, it's pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are like Chris Stone over at Cast Ahead, Dan Lefebvre. Those are, like if Dan decided, hey, I've got Based on a True Story podcast, or Mark, right? If Mark decided to come out with a new product or whatever, I trust those guys. And that's the one thing that was interesting in Chicago. Greg from RSS.com and some other guy named Rob, who was very nice. But Greg said, you're not a podcaster, you're a brand. And we all went, what? And it was like, he's like, yeah, you kind of are. And he's like, and that's where I just answered a question this morning and somebody's talking about, handling guests. And I go, look, if your guest sounds like crap, it's your brand that takes the hit. It's not like the audience goes, well, it's too bad for Dave. That guy sounded bad. They're mad at you because you let that caca audio go through to your audience. So keep that in mind. Rich says, I'd listen to a Tim Cook show before an Apple show.
Not most people, Rich. Sorry. Most people if it's coming from okay, but the show's not making money in this case. But people are buying the brand like crazy. Like see, and I'm not trying to. It's not either or, Rich. It's both
Yeah.
and, right? It's both and in this case. People do follow people, but man, brand recognition is like you're saying, is so important. And some of those organizations that have strong, brand in the space, it's tough.
But I would
tough to
I
not
would
say.
listen to the gray-haired tech guy. I don't even know what his name is. There's a guy that's always in the presentations, and when it gets time to talk about the tech, some older gentleman with like white hair comes out, and he's always seems super friendly and super knowledgeable and super confident. And he doesn't seem. That's the one thing. Tim Cook. I just
He's
was
kind of boring, actually. He's kind of boring.
yeah. I just
Satya Nadella is the same way, right? Satya Nadella, who took over for Ballmer, but who Ballmer had taken over from Gates, right?
right.
Satya has grown that company. I mean, depending on the day, they're the first or second largest company by market cap, right, in the world. And yet, do we know a lot about Satya? No. I mean,
No.
we know a little bit, but it's not like his name. Tim is the same way in a lot of ways with Apple. Yeah, we know Tim Cook, but he runs one of the most valuable companies in the world, right? But
Right.
is he a thought leader in things? Do we hear him out there? And maybe it's better that he's not out there all the time. Right now, we've got folks who are out there all the time. Maybe that's not great.
Yeah, Craig Federighi, something is the tech guy. I just watched Colin Boyd, who's like this webinar guru guy, and he was talking about how so much of your communication is how you how you present yourself. So he was talking about if you're doing a webinar, shoulders back, speak with confidence, blah blah blah. And Tim Cook always sounds kind of soft spoken. Here at Apple, we do things, and it's nice.
Done a great job. He's done a great job. Yeah.
And then Craig comes on and it's like, let me tell you about this cool tech thing. And he just seems a little more excited and blah, blah, blah. But that's there you go.
Well,
Mark said the gray hair guy sounds like you, Dave. I'm like, yes, that's it.
It's kind of the difference between influencers and managers, and not that they have to be mutually exclusive, right? In a lot of ways, you could be both, but those influencers, they're marketing, they're trying to push things forward. The managers are more, worried about product deployment, brand, what that looks like, some of those kinds of things. And again, they're not exclusive. Those Venn diagrams come together, but there's just a different. It's just, I mean, certainly in the Apple space, Tim Cook is a very different leader than Steve Jobs was.
Oh man,
and does not have Steve Jobs moved thing at the very end of his life, right? He moved markets. He would say things and things changed, right? Tim Cook says things now. People are kind of like, okay, well, I mean, keep selling your iPhones, Tim. Keep selling your iPhones. No, they're making really good product. I mean, I have a Mac M4 sitting here on my desk that I really love. I mean, and
that's me. I got my Mac Mini.
I'm always going to have one. Yeah, Apple Watch, right?
Got my iPhone. I'm set to go.
Yeah. You wouldn't consider him a thought leader, though. He's not out there. And that's not his style, right?
Right.
That's not know your place. And I think maybe Tim does know his place, right? Know your place. Well, he's not out there trying to move markets.
There is sometimes you can be a little too confident. When I think, and I'm going to paint with a really, really wide brush, but when you get into like the bros, you know what I mean? The guy that's like, dude, you got to do this, and I'm going to do, and I can, I'm going to change your life in the next 5 minutes. And then, super confident and everything. All you got to do, 3 easy payments, $977, that whole 9 yards. And there are times when I get that vibe, and obviously that I'm assuming it works on some people, but as soon as like you come at me hard like that, I'm like, in fact, I think it was Colin Boyd. I checked out 10 minutes before his webinar was over, because I knew at some point he was going to flip the switch and start talking about bonuses and easy payments. And I was like, I want to get out of there before that. So, it should be interesting. Ralph says, my marketing coach told me that gray hair has been tested and it shows confidence and trust. Well, there you go. Then I won't dye mine. I always hate the fact that when I put on headphones, I got to find out a better way to put headphones on so that it doesn't squish my hair, because I always end up with these weird patches above my ears, and I'm like,
You need a headset with a toupee built into it,
That's
so
it.
you could
That's it.
put
Just
it on this big black hair thing.
Maybe it's time to do the Edge from YouTube and just start wearing a hat. I'll just wear that's my favorite, is the guy that's wearing the Christmas hat year round. Like it's July in Texas.
Listen,
and I'm wearing a Christmas, stocking hat.
Most guys have gone to baseball caps. Like that's, it's, you can kind of like, okay, going with the baseball cap. Todd the Gator says every stand-up comedian's a brand. He says, isn't Joe Rogan a brand? Absolutely. But Joe Rogan hasn't always been a brand, right? I mean,
no,
his days on, what was the name of
the
show?
Man Show?
No, the one where they'd eat stuff that it's just
Fear Factor.
Fear Factor. I could have said that 1,000, 99 times out of 100. I could have said that, but on the show I couldn't. Fear Factor, definitely the brand. I mean, he was the host there, but Fear Factor had the brand, right? And so, he's been fortunate. Joe has been able to parlay his experiences into a really good personal brand spot, right? That doesn't typically happen. There are great examples of it happening, of folks coming out of those, where they represent a brand and then they catapult themselves into their own brand. Typically that doesn't go very well. Like there are probably more examples of those kinds of folks coming out and trying to do their own thing, and it just doesn't work, for whatever reason. For Joe, he found he had good luck and found the the key to success. I wonder how long he can stay in this.
That's a good question.
At
what point?
It never lasts forever.
Yeah.
Never lasts forever.
I know Jim and I will be launching our own tequila brand shortly. That seems to be the thing now. Like, oh, look, I'm famous. I'll sell tequila or some sort of booze.
Yeah.
And
we'll put it in bourbon. We'll put it in bourbon barrels. So tequila aged in bourbon barrels, sitting next to gin, and a few drops of rum, and then we cover all the liquors.
There you go. That's it. That seems to be the thing. It's like, oh, what are you doing? And if I'm a female, I'm launching my own clothing line that will be at Walmart or something. It's like, but on the other hand, that kind of shows, there you go, Ask the Tequila Coach. Boy, that'd be a whole different show.
Oh, there's lots of that on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah.
If you want to watch that, there's already lots of that going on YouTube.
That's a genre. Let's get wasted and turn on a camera.
You know what's better though? So years ago, it would have been that way. Lately, those liquor channels, I'll just call them that, the liquor channels, and bourbon is by far the biggest, right? Bourbon has a giant following. They do pretty well not to get toasted during the recordings. Like they do, but they do pretty well. It's not like the early days of podcasting where that happened. I think that happened a lot more than right? We'd get together and few sips and all of a sudden, you're just hammered.
Well, I remember there was one show I listened and there were like 4, hosts and one was just hammered. And so the whole thing, it should have just been called the Hold My Hair podcast or whatever.
Yeah,
it was just
there's nothing worse than sober people and drunk people together.
That's it.
All have to be sober or you all have to be drunk. Because Dave, you've probably been that one sober guy.
I've been the designated driver many times. Right?
And so it's just, they're laughing at everything and they think everything's funny. And you're like, none of this is funny. You guys are dumb.
Yeah.
This is the way that goes, right?
Yeah. And I speak drunk pretty well. I was married to an alcoholic for years. I can decipher that.
Well, I have a memory of Podcast Movement, I think, and I was sitting at a table with Todd and a bunch of other folks.
Oh, Todd, man.
We had been there a while. Todd was buying, I think, Blueberry's credit card was out. And we'd all had a few and we were laughing and having a good time. And you rolled in and you're like, hey guys. And I said to you, we're having a great time here, Dave. He goes, you go, I see that. Just like that. I see that. I was like, oh boy, the sober guy has arrived.
My favorite was at the New Media Expo. And I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off because I'm the head of podcasting thing there. And I'm making sure all the T's are crossed. And I finally get to the after party and Todd walks out. So I'm on there's like a steps that come out and then there's a driveway with a slope. So I'm standing kind of, I don't know, a half a foot lower than Todd because he's on a step anyway. And I come out, and Todd raises his right hand. He's like, "There's a fox in the hen house. There's something. Viva la revolution!" And I was like, "Okay, Grandpa found the gin." You know, it's just like, oh, it was so funny.
There we go.
But yeah, that's yeah. So
Tim Bryan says there's a Christian podcast called Christian AF, and they speak about Christianity and drink craft beer throughout each episode. Beer is a little safer I think. Beer's a little safer of going at it. I mean, with the bourbons and the gins and the tequilas and the rums, you get there pretty fast. Beer, you maybe in 60 minutes you're still okay at the end there for the most part. Good.
Yeah. Where was I at? It might have been my ex-wife's wedding, which is a weird thing to say, but I went to her third wedding.
Okay.
And we're walking along, and we walked by a bar, and she goes, "Let's do a shot." I go, "I have not done a shot in probably 20 years. She's like, "Come on, what's your poison?" I go, "What's the thing in the purple bag? Crown Royal? Is that the name of it?"
Oh yeah, Crown. Yeah, you can.
Yeah. And I go, "I guess that, you know." And she's like, "All right, she goes, "I'm doing Jack." And I'm like, "Whatever you're doing." And I slammed that down, and the burn, and I was just like, how did I do this as a young person? And then your face turns all red, and I was like, this is not my jam anymore. That was when I was like 22. Black Velvet was my poison at the time. And that was the end of that. After a while, I was like, yeah, I'm no. There we go. Randy says nothing like a Christian podcast that goes against the Bible's teaching. Well, yeah, to not drink and talk. No, it's not. No, because like, look, we could get into a religious. Hey, there's a fun tangent.
Oh boy, we should not go
politics and religion. Yeah, but
the Lutherans will disagree with you pretty heartily for sure.
Yeah, it says do not drink to get drunk, for that is debauchery. So that's the thing. So there we go.
Listen, meanwhile, some people can't handle it. Tim, let's see. Tim had one more. He said some of those craft beers will really knock you on your backside, and that's very true. That's very true. Watch that ABV in there on that. But you know, if you're drinking some of the regular stuff, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and Michelle says third wedding. I go yes, and sadly, that one has also come to an end. So I feel bad for her.
Remember, Bud Light is water in some countries, so it's better than their water. So.
Yeah, if you're standing next to somebody from Australia, and when I was in Australia, I was like, "Give me an Australian beer." Like give me a real one, and it looked
Foster's.
like Foster's. No, that's not actually. That was not. But it looked like chocolate milk. It was so thick. I was like, "Wait, what? That's beer?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's real beer. Come on, mate." I was okay. You know, I'm not much of a beer drinker anyway.
I love it. We've gone off the rails. By the way,
we have gone off the rail. Welcome to the drinking show. We're here every Saturday telling you about. Well, here's a fun one. Just to keep everyone in mind. Jay Jackson, no relation, says, "Hey, thanks for the re-ad in a Facebook group. Just had Meta take down all of my accounts and no option to appeal." Oh, that's not the button I wanted. But yeah, or recover anything. Does anyone have a Meta contact? Cheesecakes on me if you can assist. So I don't. The thing I hate about that whole process is they never tell you. Besides, you broke the terms of service, or
100% automated. They're not. There's no person behind this thing, and
no,
there's no model where there's actually people where it works to have actual people behind you. I wonder what the stat is on how many groups they take down on a daily basis. It's got to be a lot. I'm sure. You know, listen, none of our groups have shenanigans going on inside of them, but I am sure there are plenty of Facebook groups with shenanigans. And you just got to kind of wonder, if you've built your community on Facebook, just expect it to be taken down. I'm kind of hoping they take one of mine down at some point.
Come on, guys! That'd be fun.
It'd be a lot easier than me doing it, and then I can blame it on them. You know,
and that's it. Sorry, I don't know. I can't appeal. What am I going to do?
Anything about them? Oh well, oops.
Yeah. Oops. Here's the Ask the Podcast Coach drinking game. Apparently, every time Dave says. A video on YouTube is not a podcast. You have to drink. Yeah,
not good enough. Not good enough. You only say it once.
Let's see. Here we go. Chris says I got in trouble for reposting another person's post in my Instagram stories from a long time ago. So I don't ask me what the share button's for then. That's kind of weird. So that's weird. I brought this one up because if I remember right, Chris Stone is in Atlanta. And this was in the Podfest Facebook group. I am noticing less activity in all Facebook groups. I don't know if that's a summer thing or what. Probably. But he says, hey, Pod fam, this is from the admin. There's still time to join us at VidFest Expo this coming August 21st through the 24th in Atlanta. I've never heard of this. We're featuring some of the industry's top experts on topics including YouTube thumbnails, of course, how to use AI to scale your visibility, how to use YouTube to expand your business by selling digital products, a surprisingly unconventional tactic to turn video interviews into social proof for your business, how to get your first 1,000 subscribers as a go-to thought leader in your industry, and more. So the thing is, of course, I didn't copy the link to that. That would have been helpful. I'll have to go back and find it, but it was in the Podfest Multimedia Expo group, and I was like, oh, I did not know that was going on. I know they do little like satellite meetups, but that was when I was like, oh, because Atlanta is one of those places, again, it's a little longer than 7 hours, but Atlanta has a really strong podcast network, much like Nashville. And speaking of that, next week, we're going to try it, so it'll be fun. I'm in Nashville next week. Here's a weird one. I'm opening a kind of all-in-one studio. It looks like a big white cube from the pictures I saw inside a Walmart. So I'm going to come down, and myself and David Hooper are doing presentations about podcasting, thanks to our good friends at Focusrite. And it's inside Walmart. And the only thing that made me scratch my head was, wait, it's in Franklin, Tennessee, which is like, Nashville South. And I'm like, okay, I get the idea. I think it's kind of odd that, like, honey, can you go to the store and pick up some eggs, bread, and we need some more yogurt. Oh, and while you're there, can you record a podcast? That's the part that is a bit of a head scratcher. And also, it's in Nashville, Tennessee, where doesn't everybody already have a studio in their basement? I don't know. So I'm one of the reasons I'm going down there is I want to see what it is, and we'll go from there. There we go. Let's see. Does Mark have a question? Oh, Mark says, Mark Farquhar, my podcast is getting very popular. Congrats. With lots of listener engagement. More congrats. I'm hesitant to start a Facebook group. Yep, wouldn't do it because of what you guys just spoke about. I would go, let me see if I can put this in the chat room. I do. Supportthishow.com/heartbeat is my favorite. There's a Circle, there are other ones, but I'm a big fan of Heartbeat because A, you can put courses there. You've got a built-in community. It ties into your Zoom account. So if you want to do group coaching, it's really, really cool. So that's going to be, that would be my number one. I know way too many. It's the more, now that I'm looking for it, I keep running into people that got booted or kicked off of some sort of social thing. I don't know. Jim, you're using Facebook, right?
Substack. Does Substack have community?
They don't. I'm surprised because they have just about everything else. You can stream video there now. You can do email. You can sell access to content. But I don't think their community is kind of on their app where everybody can comment on stuff, but not so much like a Facebook group. Discord is another one.
Discord we use Discord as a family, and then I use Discord for Home Gadget Geeks. That kind of depends on, like, Discord's ugly, so, and it's very techy. So it kind of depends. I wouldn't put my mom on Discord. she'd that what are we doing here kind of thing. But as a family, we figured it out. Circle is another one I've heard of folks moving to that seems pretty friendly. By the way, you asked me, do I have groups on Facebook? I have 20,000 group. I have a 20,000 member group on Facebook. A 6,000 member that's very, very engaged. I asked them if we could do something different, and they revolted. They're like, don't leave. I don't want another login, kind of thing. Eventually we will move, I think. to our own. I think we'll probably build our own or something like that. But I don't know, Dave. I kind of wonder that mode of community, conversation has gotten so toxic in so many ways, and it's so bad. The experiences are so bad. I wonder if we're at the end of that cycle. I wonder if there'll be something that disrupts that. That's better.
It would be
Right?
interesting.
Because it's definitely, it's definitely a freak show when it comes to all the stuff that's going on. Geez, don't do it on Twitter or on X, right? Some of those. So, I don't know. It's a really good question. You think about, you could create a community group around your YouTube channel. They've got some community features as far as conversation that goes on. Not that that's not toxic on YouTube, right? So, I don't know. It's a good.
Yeah. Daniel says,
question. Just know as the groups get bigger, the moderation gets harder, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot like parenting. The sooner you enforce disciplines, the better off you are.
Yeah.
So if you nip those things in the bud super early, make sure everybody that's there understands the rules and what you're doing. Never apologize for removing somebody who's out of hand.
Right.
It can get really bad. So make sure you're doing a great job of moderations. I throw people out at the drop of a hat. Like, nope, you're out. You're gone.
You're out. See you. Bye. Yep.
Yeah, this is not going to work. I delete comments pretty regularly. Like, no, we're not going to do this in this group. So
yeah, Daniel agrees with you. He says it's ugly for Discord. Notifications and threading features are horrible. Yeah, when I attended the Ecamm Creator Camp, I had to use Discord, and I did go in and change it to where it wasn't the dark theme and it made it somewhat readable. But I was constantly scrolling to find out where the new stuff was, which I think was at the bottom. I was horrible. Yeah. Steph says you can do private subscriber comments on Substack. Yeah, but it's not like here's the general topic, here's the monetization topic. I don't think it's kind of that kind of thing. Dan Lefebvre says Jim makes good points that it's not for everyone. It's probably impossible to find a tool that everyone loves. Yeah, I love Heartbeat, and I have people go, but I'm in Facebook every day. So that's why I still have my Facebook group, because there are people that just won't leave it. Jody, the awesome supporter, said, I was hoping Clubhouse would be that. Yeah, it's still around. I mean, Mark Ronick, the guy from Empowered Podcast, happening in September in North Carolina, where I'll be, does a daily show on Clubhouse. Randy Cantrell from the Yellow Studio. I have one Facebook group that's successful, but the demographic is key. Yep, it's a retirement age. Yep, there you go.
Sure,
that's true.
Sure. Yeah, right on.
Yeah, Randy's been doing research. The Walmart studio, Created Studios, yes, thank you to Created Studios, is a minimum of $70 an hour. And that's where I'm like, okay, if you buy a Samsung Q2U, that's $70, and it's yours for life. Yeah. And then Chris says, go to where the people are. Yeah, it's fun. Stephanie says, Kit has podcast studios for those that use their email service. That's interesting. I've never heard of that. But Mark says, we're 7 months in. We're about to do a listener survey. That's about 7 months late, but okay. We will ask our listeners.
It's better than, it's early for some, right?
Yeah, that is true. That's one I never will. So we will ask our listeners directly where they would like our community to be.
Perfect.
My answer.
Just get ready. Just get ready, right? You're going to ask some folks, and they're going to say, Bippity Bop is where I want to be. I want to be on Bippity Bop.
I love Bippity Bop.
And you'll have two people who want to be on Bippity Bop, and then you won't go to Bippity Bop. And then those two people will contact you and said, you asked me, and I said Bippity Bop, and how dare you not use Bippity
Bop? Yeah, that's it.
And you're like, yeah, well, we kind of went with the numbers who had the most. I know, but I said Bippity Bop, and then they will remind you, this would have never happened on Bippity Bop, and we could have done this on Bippity Bop.
I want to use Keeper, but there's no E's. It's just KPR.com.
How would you spell Bippity Bop? That's Bippity, chat room. Let us know.
BIP BIP Itty, ITYBOP. But we'd have to.
Bop.
Yeah, it's one of those. That's a weird one. But yeah, that's the bad news is when you ask your audience for feedback, and half of them want you to put your cat in the show, and half of them say, "I'm tired of Bernie." Like, okay, well, I'm gonna upset 50% of my audience doing this.
Hey, Mark does clarify. It's his second survey. They
all right.
test episode. So good job.
There you go. Yeah.
Listen, the best survey you could ever run is the one you're running right now.
Yeah.
So that's like, that's the best thing. That's good for you for checking it out. Bippity.
Rich is saying it's
Bob.
2 words, bippity bob. I was going bop with a P.
Bop. I was using a P too as well. So bippity
flashing
bippity bop.
Yeah, I was flashing back to my Rick Springfield. My sister loved Rick Springfield, and he had a song called "Bop Till You Drop." There you go. Wow.
Dan has a version without the vowels in there.
Wait,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, there you go. BPTYBP. Exactly.
That's pretty good, Dan. Good work.
Chris is now changing the drinking game to bippity bop. Excellent. But Chris has an actual question. He goes, do people actually care that much? Yes, I think so. Do you think, like you said,
surveys?
On groups, like when you threatened to leave Facebook, I had people like, no! And it's like, oh, really? I was hoping they'd be like, well, okay, if you have to. They were like, no, I'm not using another platform. And I'm like, but it works on the web. It's another app I have to install. It works on the web. It works on this. It works on your phone. It works.
I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
They do care. Some, not all, just a few. Again, the bigger your group, the bigger the fringe. So you're going to have these folks out on the edge who are going to be very vocal about something they don't know that nobody else is. Yeah. That's just the way they're going to want bippity bop. Drink.
That's it. Exactly. All right. Well, we have an actual podcast related question. Ralph asked this early. I'm sorry, Ralph. I had this pinned and then forgot about it. What's the one thing most podcasters are wasting time on that they think is essential, but really isn't? Ooh. My knee-jerk reaction without thinking it through. Is and that's just because of Gary Arndt, social media. But I that makes it sound like, because Gary was the guy, gets 1 million downloads a month, does a daily show, everything everywhere daily, and he said, I just couldn't do social media anymore, so I quit. And I'm like, cold turkey? And he's like, yeah. And I go, what happened? And he said, nothing. And I was like, wow. Like, he goes, yeah, my downloads didn't change. Nothing changed. And he goes, and all the time I spent doing social was that. So there's that. Time wasters. Just the person that like has a Rode mic, they love their sound, and then they spend 3 hours researching, should I get an SM7B? Should I get a Rode? You know what I mean? Like, when your sound's fine, there's really no reason. Like, check that box and move on. When your artwork is fine because you had Mark do it, check that box and move on. You know, they think, so what's something they're wasting their time on, they think is essential, but really isn't. So what's a waste of time? Correcting the spelling in their transcript. That's one that I'm like, again, going back to branding, that could bite you in the butt, but that's one I don't spend time on that I probably should. I don't know, Jim, can you think of any?
Yeah, I think worrying. They worry. So you know what happens when you start worrying? You start coming up with other things to do other than doing what you should be doing. I listen, you and I have talked about this before. There's plenty of time in most people's days to do the things that they need to do to get stuff done. We get diverted and blocked by other things. And so we're like, oh, you know what? I really need to figure out, fill in the blank. I really need to figure out this. And then I'm like, well, but I'm going to go get a root canal instead, or I'm going to go clean out the garage. And you're like, okay, that's not the task. The task is to sit down and figure out your editing process, or how to make things faster from a posting perspective, or can I clean up my audio faster in what I do? Or how do I make it quicker to schedule guests, right? Those kinds of things. But we get distracted. And I think a lot of times we get distracted because we get worried. We worry about it. And then we start deflecting that worry into, well, I don't want to think about that now. I'm going to go do something else. And I think at some point we got to just overcome those and you got to just dive in and start doing those things that you've been putting off the most. They're slowing you down. Like those things those things you're worrying about, we all have them, right? Those things that you're worrying about, you haven't taken care of yet. You haven't figured out how to do it more efficiently. You haven't done, you need to do it. You're doing other things instead of doing that thing. You got to trick yourself or do whatever it takes based on who you are to get in there, get it done, knock it out. You'll feel so much better when it's done. I think worry is just a huge time waster. I only say this, maybe it's not you, but this is the way it is for me. I start obsessing over things. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I put off my own personal budget, going in and reconciling the budget during I need to do that. I need to get that done. I need to do that. It's not fun, but you got to do it. As soon as I get it done, I'm like, why don't I just do this 2 minutes a week? And then I'm not trying to catch it up over 4 months, type deal. So that would be, I think we waste a lot of time worrying about things that don't.
We're getting some interesting comments here. Dan from Based on a True Story Podcast.com. For many people, he says, video is the answer. They think it's essential to success. And then Chrissy over at Creating Great Grooming Dogs, my audience said one of my podcasts is talking head videos on YouTube. A year's worth of doing all the extra work to do the videos for what ended up to be 15 to 20 views. So Daniel says, from the Audacity to Podcast, I've been recording full videos of my episodes since bringing back the Audacity to Podcast, but I've not published them because the time it takes to edit videos. And I just did an episode on this on Your Podcast Consultant where people go, it's not any more work, man. You just record the video and then you take the audio out of it. And I'm like, no, because then you got to do the thumbnail and then you got to do the hook and you got to do, Chris says gear, video, mics, logos, anything other than the content.
Yeah, sometimes those are easy distractions. They're a lot more fun. When you think about like, oh yeah, I can think about microphones or I could buy. Listen, the whole buying process, Dave, is an adrenaline junkie, dopamine addict. Like, you buy, buying something on Amazon or wherever you buy it feels a whole lot better than editing for 3 hours. Let's just be really clear about that, right? It feels a lot better. So it's a lot easier to go in there and like gear acquisition syndrome and start buying things or thinking about stuff that doesn't really matter. You're like, oh, if I had one more thing, I could do this. And you're like, no, right. How about just do the thing? Like, oftentimes you're just putting it off. Do the thing.
Bingo. Chris from castahead.net. There's a point of no return, especially when it comes to over editing. He goes, that's the biggest time suck. There's a point of no return for each of us. At some point, it needs to be good enough to move on. That's from Craig Groeschel, or Groeschel or Grioschel. I forget how to pronounce that guy's last name. Really good author.
Bippity Bop, I think is what it was. Bippity Bop. Drink.
Uncle Marv says, I found that over editing was a pain, waste of time. Most listeners don't care. And actually, I had this. No, I don't want that. A guy mentioned this in Reddit, editing out breaths without ruining the show. And we all kind of said the same thing. It's like, hey, people breathe. And so keep that in mind that, and deleting the breath manually can be grueling. He's using Adobe Audition. And I was like, either A, throw in, well, first of all, don't interview loud breathers. So I'm sorry, Mr. Vader, but you're not coming on the show. And be careful with Auphonic. Auphonic will think, if you do have somebody who maybe is just a little too close to the microphone and, they just do this and all of a sudden, as soon as you notice it, I'll be interested to see, because I get one free trial of this. Buzzsprout is where this show is hosted, and they have automatic removal now. And I'm going to have them do that. There is a cleanup. They say don't use cleanup if you have good audio. So I'm not going to use that. But I've seen where Auphonic will think breaths are words, and then it levels out the audio, and all of a sudden you have somebody who's just, well, here's what I think. I think it's just ridiculously loud. That's a different story than, hey, people breathe. In fact, I've been breathing this whole show. Jim, how about you?
No, I stopped about 45 minutes ago.
Oh, that was nice of. Yeah.
Can we breathe now?
Yeah. He says, my talent coach wants me to throw away the script. Yes. Throw away the script and
maybe.
just talk.
Maybe.
But I've heard Ralph talk.
Yeah.
And Ralph is great just talking. He doesn't need a script. That's why I say that. If you need a script, that's fine. But, I like a script because it focuses. I write a blog post to figure out what the heck I'm trying to say. And then I make bullet points. But obviously, you don't have to podcast my way. But it's a hard skill to learn how to read a script that doesn't sound like you're reading a script.
For sure. No, for sure. I have a guest host who says over preparedness is the key to spontaneity, right? And so when he talks, he sounds like, and he has a script, but he's not following it, but he's definitely over prepared for it. And but he makes really good content. And so for some people, right, this is where I think, you got to kind of figure out, where are you best? Like, what's your best stuff? How do you know what your best stuff is? Your best stuff is when other people say, man, that was really good, right? When you get that positive feedback unsolicited from people who are like, you got to do more of that. Then you need to say, okay, what did I do? And then deconstruct that to figure out, okay, what did I do to get that done and get it there? So Ralph, I think, the key may be throwing away the script, but the key may be make sure you're amply prepared, then just have the script as a backdrop. Certainly doing the script or doing that gets you prepared. Now, maybe you don't read it word for word. I'm not a good Dave. I don't like doing voiceover work because I'm terrible at that medium.
Dude,
I'm terrible at it.
I used to have to read a script when I read it when I worked at Libsyn, and there were times we went sentence by sentence. And I was like, but I wouldn't say this. Like, this is not totally the way that would drove me nuts.
Yeah. The people ask me, in my job, people ask me, hey, could you would you do some voiceover? I'm like, this is really hard. And I have to say, no, I'm not really good at that. To be honest, listen, I know you've heard me on a podcast and you've heard me talk about these things. None of that is scripted. If you give me a script, it's not going to be very good. Let's just be honest. There are professional voice actors who do that amazingly. That is not me. So don't make me do that. That's tough in a work situation. I can turn away work that way just because I know I'm not very good. Could I get better? I absolutely could. Am I gonna? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe I'll put some effort because I think you can get better at it. This is it's an area where talent meets experience. And if I did it more, I'd probably be better at it. I could probably use a good voice coach. I might know somebody in the chat room.
Yeah, there you go. Jody Krangle. Dan says, I think it depends on the type of show in terms of the script. For my history show, the planning phase is looking up the facts and the things to that show. The planning phase is huge for Dan because it's based on a true story. Jody says, I really need to find a sponsor. Producing all of this is expensive. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Even like Ralph has, 400 shows now. And, or 400 episodes, probably is more like it. I mean, he really does. But he's got a guy that's doing $500 a month for all of his shows. And that's a great deal, but it's still $500 a month. I mean, that's a chunk of change. Speaking of Ralph, but all the gurus are saying you have to be on YouTube for discovery. I still say I have a discovery. I have an algorithm. His name is Doug. And he tells me all the time about great stuff to go watch. I just saw the Superman movie last night. If you like Superman movies, you'll like this one because it's got the exact same script, except this one has a dog, so it's different. Yeah. That's it. That's really it. It's the same.
Is it a poodle too? Is it a poodle?
No, it's Crypto. It's this white dog with a cape.
Oh,
any
no.
Oh no, I'm not kidding. Yeah.
It's Crypto, a super dog?
Super dog. Yeah.
From
and at the very end, did we have something go wrong with Ecamm?
Alert?
No, we're good. Okay. I just had a bunch of screens. Oh, my Zoom meeting quit. for some reason.
Well, nobody's calling anyway.
Whatever. Some other things here. Yeah, but no, Crypto is in the new Superman movie. He actually kind of steals the show.
And he's a super dog?
He is a super dog, yes.
Goes super fast. Can he fly?
He flies. He's what's great is he's a dog. Like he's not a very good dog, and they can't get him to do what he's supposed to do, so he's the comic relief.
Sounds like a Saturday morning 80s really bad.
Right. We got to do something to save the franchise. I know. Let's add a dog. Let's add Scrappy Doo. Yeah. The other fun thing is, this is a great sign of a not great movie, and it's not really a spoiler because you expect it. Yes, there's an alternate universe in this movie. That's anytime you're like, wait, how are we going to save the movie? How are we going to make that? I know, alternate universe. You're like, wait, what? Jody says, hey, does it have to be a full video? Like, can't you just do shorts? You could. There are a lot of people that just do shorts. Randy says editing. Like, what's editing? And we got a really good question coming up. There we go. Going back to Craig, is it Groeschel? I know I listen to his podcast off and on. Gitmo changed my life related to perfectionism with over editing. Yeah, a lot of really good. I think he's the author of the book Weird. So if you're a person of faith, Weird is a great book. But Mark came in and turned the whole thing on its head. He says, let's flip this on its head. What are people not doing that they should be focused on? And so for me, that one's easy. Know your audience. Like, know them like what they had for breakfast. Kind of know your audience and give them what they want. Easier said than done. But that's the thing. My last episode, I kind of had a rant. I was like, because I keep hearing, the OGs are going to say this, what worked before doesn't work. And I'm like, easy there on that. Because to me, great content that delivered in an entertaining fashion that makes you feel something will never go out of style. The War of the Worlds was a radio show, right? That made you feel something, made people poop their pants, right? People still talk about that today. The last episode of MASH made people feel something because they were sad. It was going away. People still talk about that today, and that set a record. So making amazing content that's so good that you can't help but tell your friends about it. I can't say right now because my brother occasionally watches this show, but the thing I bought him for his birthday is something I bought for me first. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Wow. And I immediately was like, I got to get this for my brother. So to me, so that's, I think, Jim, is anything else we should be focusing on? Smart marketing?
Definitely put your stuff on YouTube. Definitely put it on YouTube.
For discovery.
Sorry, just poking the bear. Yeah. Just poking the bear there.
Hey, I always say, if you've got the time, the budget, and the desire, you'd be dumb not to. I keep running into people that say, I don't really want to be on YouTube. I don't want to have to get camera ready. I'm like, then don't. I run into that constantly.
Do what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, friends, do what you want to do. Like, could your video be better on YouTube? Could it do some things? Maybe. How would you know? Try it. If it doesn't do anything, take it down. Stop doing it. Like, right. But just to say, I'm not going to do it because I'm against it. Okay, I mean, that's fine too. If you want to be against YouTube or whatever, you can ignore maybe the world's largest video platform that does a pretty great job of when it does promote people, they get millions of subscribers. Like, now, are you going to be one of those? Probably not. But could you be? Sure. Is it expensive? No. I mean, unless you don't have any video equipment. Would I go buy a bunch of video equipment? Well, maybe. It feels good to buy stuff, so maybe. But, try it. See what works for you. Give it a try. Try some things. Shorts, maybe. Shorts or reels or whatever the heck they call them. They might do really well for you. But you don't know until you try.
Yeah. Well, that's like Chrissy. Chrissy with the, getting better dogs for groomers. Chrissy, I hate that. Why can I never remember the name of your show? But her dog is about getting your dog ready. Here it is. Creating great grooming dogs. It's for getting your dog ready to go to or it's actually more for groomers in a way. But anyway, she tried video and was like, hey, you know what? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. But it might have taken off and gone crazy. You don't know because everybody's audience is different.
Yeah,
you
you
know,
gotta just try. You gotta try.
yeah.
Give it a go. Put as much time into it as you want. I mean, certainly really well put together edited content on YouTube can do pretty well. And I've even watched some videos that aren't put together very well, and they do pretty well. It's a good. Listen. I watched this guy in Norway who bought this old beat up piece of property, and he's putting it back together and building this. He's taken a 200-year-old barn and rebuilding it. It's pretty cool. He has 105,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And he does his videos. He's not listening. I hope he's not listening. He wouldn't know if I was talking about him anyways. His content is not even edited very well. I mean, it's okay, but but for me, it's fascinating. And for whatever he's doing, he's doing it pretty well. And so for me, I kind of like it. And so I think you got to give it a try. I think you have to have some kind of content out there. Your best of whatever you like to do, whatever you're most proud of, needs to be out there in some form. I think you're missing if you're not. Now, do you have to? No. But I think you're missing something if you're not.
It's worth sticking your toe in the water to see,
For sure it is. Yeah. It's a good growing experience.
Yeah. Chris says my next project is going to be, because he's hanging up his podcast. I saw that on Twitter. And so he's going to jump into YouTube to see what that's like. And then Jody says, part of the reason I'm doing a video is to add the know, like, and trust quotient. I was audio only for the first 150 episodes, but I do feel people are getting to know me better this way. So there you go. And holy cow, I get to hit the button. Come on. It worked this morning. Honest, it did. I'm going to hit it again. Nope, that's the wrong button. I want this button. There we go. We got a lovely super chat from Mark, which is is that £2? Oh, and the hits keep coming.
Yeah, £2.
There we go. Thank you, kind sir. I appreciate that for the super chat. Daniel says that can I have? Okay. He says he's talking.
This is in response. This is in response to a question about artwork.
Oh, okay.
Can I use an image of like Warren Buffett? There we go. Read that.
Yeah. So he says, another quick question. This is from Ralph. Is it legal to use someone's picture in your cover art? I did a show about Warren Buffett this morning, and I'm using his AI face on the cover art. So my first knee-jerk reaction was, I don't think so. And then I saw AI, and I was like, because I don't know where the law stands on copyright yet with AI. And then I also know it's somebody else's face, and I wouldn't want my face on somebody else's artwork if I didn't give them permission. So I legally don't know the answer to this one. It sounds dangerous to me. It sounds like you're leaving yourself open. I don't know. What say you, Jim? You're a lawyer.
Yeah, well, yeah. I didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Now that we all know what that means. Thanks.
Right.
Man. The image thing is kind of interesting in the sense that I wouldn't. I mean, someone's face is very recognizable, and especially as we're thinking about like a guy like Warren Buffett. You could do it, and they could choose to do nothing, or you could do it in a way that they could choose to do everything. So is that it's kind of a risk thing. I think most copyright trademark people would say, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like don't. Now, could you and claim fair use?
Yeah.
You see this all over YouTube all the time, right? And where people are putting images of other things out there. So just the question is, do you want to risk it? Do you want to risk have that coming back on you? Because it's not, what they're going to see it, and then someone's going to contact you and say, that's an interesting question. Does YouTube have an algorithm for their thumbnails that recognizes trademarkable or, that kind of stuff, that kind of content? They do pretty good on the video side of things.
Yeah.
Sure.
My guess is probably, because I know I was watching somebody talk about Instagram, and he had a shirt on that said something about fishing, and Instagram thought the post was about fishing, and it wasn't, but it thought it because of his shirt. And I was like, that's kind of creepy. So
Well, yeah. And Ralph asked, does it change it that it's an AI image? It's an image of a person, and you're calling out who that person is. And so, I mean, I'm assuming you're putting the image there because you're talking about that person in your podcast. Yeah, if you do it in a way that's tasteful and they decide to do nothing, does that lower the risk? Yeah, maybe a little bit.
yeah,
If it's distasteful, will they come after you for it being misrepresenting the image? I mean, certainly with what's going on in current affairs, this idea of misrepresentation of someone, as we think about what's happening with CBS right now, certainly that's a thing. Now, what you doing that at your level, will that get the same amount of attention as something else? I don't know. You'd have to see. Does it clear you of that if you don't use it? Yeah. If it's not there, you're not going to get busted for it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Randy says an individual's face cannot be copywritten or trademarked. The copyright issue is over the photographer who took the picture. But in this case, there isn't a photographer. It's odd.
I would be very careful with that statement,
because that guy's got plenty of money to hire a lawyer.
Yeah, and not necessarily about the picture itself. It's more about the representation of that person in your, so now we get into libel, right? Have we said things, and I'm not implying you did at all, Ralph, but I'm just saying, did you say things that are true and accurate, and you're using that image to portray that could come back to you on a takedown, right? Or something.
Yeah,
I'm not a lawyer, but
there's some legislation out there. They're trying to figure this out. The other thing about fair use on YouTube, have you ever heard of Doc Rock? I always think it's kind of weird when you gloss yourself. Like if somebody else called him Doc Rock and then we all jumped in like Tarjay, right? But when Radio Shack said, hey, we're the Shack, we're like, no, you don't gloss yourself a nickname. But Doc Rock is this guy with he's got a little hat and sunglasses and, or not sunglasses, but glasses. And he talks about music all the time. And he did a top 10. He does a lot of these, like top 10 songs of 1991. And he'll talk about them and he'll explain why this is a good song. And this was written by so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And all this behind the scenes stuff. Well, you got a takedown notice. And he's like, what the heck? We're promoting, like, it's been proven that this helps promote old music to new audiences. This is dumb. And so Rick Beato, who has millions of people on his channel, admitted, he goes, I got contacted by a lawyer, and he goes, you can beat this in court because it's absolutely fair use when you talk about music the way this guy does. He goes, but I have a full-time lawyer now that does nothing but fight and win my takedown notices. He goes, but it's a full-time job. And he goes, and I'm paying that guy for that. He goes, and the only way I make money on this channel is if people buy his courses. He goes, so if you'd like to keep the channel on, please go buy my courses, even if you don't need them. And I'm like, that guy needs buy me a coffee or something, but because everything's going through YouTube, which is going to take a big chunk of it. But it's one of those things where I always say fair use is the defense you use when you go to court. So it gets kind of sticky. Dan says the legality of things like this can start to go back and to the concept of a person being a brand. A random person's image is different than a person who is a brand. And I know on the No Agenda show, and most of those are parodies. Like they'll have pictures of somebody there, but a lot of times their people on their artwork are just characters, like random characters of stuff. So, so in this case, Ralph says he made a great quote, and I'm praising what he said. Yeah, okay.
Well, you listen. We can't tell you if it is or it's not. It just depends if they decide to say something about it. Chances are you're going to be. I mean, I shouldn't say it that way. Yeah, it's up. It just depends. I mean, it really all depends.
Chris Stone says, create an image of Dave Jackson in Gene Simmons makeup. If you want to get sued, there's somebody that'll sue you. Good old Gene Simmons might get you what you want, but it doesn't mean that eventually someone won't come after you named Gene Simmons who,
Yeah. There's this concept of brand confusion, right, in this space where you talk about what you're doing confusing a consumer to believe that you are something else, right? If I, if say we, say Dave, you changed the background to red and it had swoopy,
Right.
and you used the font that looked like Coca-Cola, and
Right.
and we were like, we're the real thing, right?
And
And
we were
now we're
both in
all
polar bear outfits.
exactly right, or okay, that's probably going to cause a little bit of brand
Yeah.
confusion. Now, would the makers of makers of Coke come after us for something like that? Dave and Jim with
Yeah.
40 live
Well,
listeners on a Saturday and a couple hundred downloads, probably, because they're super aggressive about their brand,
yeah.
right?
Well,
Coca-Cola is super aggressive about their brand, so
so is
they might come
Disney.
after us. For
Disney
sure
went
they are.
after Daniel J. Lewis because Daniel's so great. I mean, he used to design websites and he knows his way around a graphics program. And when he was doing I forget the name of it. It was this fairy tale thing. Oh, what was the name of it? It's not Frozen. It wasn't Lost. It was
Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time. And
Yeah.
Daniel did such a good job of recreating a lot of the artwork style that they went, hey, hey, hey. And he's like, no, so he had to then say an unofficial Once Upon a Time, the unofficial podcast of Once Upon a Time. He had to throw in the word unofficial. Chris corrected me. Thank you so much. It's not Doc Rock.
I know the Professor of Rock.
The Professor of Rock. Yes. How could forget the one's
He's got great glasses.
He does have great
incredible.
Yes. And Jody says, I honestly hope that someone with a lot of money starts to prosecute this stuff. If my voice is used without my say so, I want to know, and I have some legal recourse. Yeah, there was a woman in Scotland that did some sort of voiceover and didn't realize that she somehow ended up being the voice of like the train. And she's like, hey, I didn't sign up to do that. And all of a sudden they cloned her voice and it was like, next stop, whatever. And it was like, hey, that's me. And I didn't do that. Yeah. So, the Professor of Rock, not to be confused with Doc at Ecamm. Rick Beato and Just Hawkins are leading this charge, record labels and copyright strikes. Yeah. Because it's been proven multiple times that Phil Collins got back on the charts because of, I think that was the one with the gorilla playing the drums. And there was a couple other instances where In the Air Tonight has, come back because people featured it in a video.
Oh, yeah, but they most are likely paying licenses to do that.
Yeah.
They're not, you're not, in most cases, you're not. Listen, there's tons of, I think that the Professor of Rock also has an episode on certain songs that sound like other songs, and
Right.
they're in litigation. And then oftentimes that gets settled by a credit, right? They'll say, oh, all you got to do, Led Zeppelin was famous for this, by the way.
Oh,
Led Zeppelin, lots of their songs
they were inspired by other.
And they would settle, in most cases, Beatles too had one this way. They settled by putting a credit in on the song of that person, right? It was settled that way. Those guys have gajillions of dollars to settle these lawsuits. Most podcasters,
not so much.
You don't want to be taken to court for that kind of stuff.
Kim Craggy says Clint Eastwood sued over a newspaper ad of a TV. Wait, a newspaper ad of a TV that showed his face on the ad. Yeah, sued.
Yeah.
And Eastwood won.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well,
brand confusion. And hey, my brand is this, and I didn't say this, and this isn't me, and you're not, I did not want to represent that. Don't put it there. And then you got to take it down. And if you made money off of it, you might owe them.
Yeah.
Type thing. Yeah.
Well, who's not going to sue us? Our awesome supporters. That's right. If you can be an awesome supporter by going over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. And while you're there might be a button to sign up for the School of Podcasting where you can use the coupon code COACH and get access to really cool courses, unlimited coaching, and just the best community on the internet when it comes to people who really care about creating great content for their audience. And when you go to Ask the Podcast Coach, you're looking at Podpage, if you want to check out Podpage, it's super simple. Go over to trypodpage.com. And if you want to learn Podpage, go to learnpodpage.com. And those both involve my affiliate link. And if you need more Jim Collison, and hey, who doesn't? Well, then go over to theaverageguy.tv and check out his show, Home Gadget Geeks. And if you, you know what? It's funny. I bought this. I investigated it for like 2 days. And I do like what I saw, but I've not sniffed Vid IQ since, of course, I had to go to Chicago and talk and things like that. But what I saw, I really liked. I know Ralph was talking about how, because Ralph is a member of the School of Podcasting, was saying how he likes it and has all these checkboxes that it'll kind of give you hints on what makes a good video. And, of course, what will go viral, which no one can really predict. But if you want to check it out, supportthishow.com/vidIQ. And it's time for the supporter of the week. Who will it be? Will it be Ralph? Will it be Ross Brand? Will it be Shane? Will it be York? Well, we're going to find out. Will it be Randy over at Shooting It Straight? Dang! Is it? No, bam, son. Here we go. I'm going to click Honest I Am. There we go. And the winner is it Craig? No. Is it Jody? Is it going to make it to Jody? Is it? Oh, so close. It is the one and only Jody Krangle. Audio branding show. Check her out. The hidden gem of marketing. And I've been on there twice, I believe. So good show. And her voice is like butter. That's really the case. She's got a great voice, and I could listen to her read a phone book. So check that out. Jody, thank you so much for being an awesome supporter. And if you would like to be an awesome supporter, it's super simple. Just go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome, and you can join today. And thanks to all of our awesome supporters that are over there. And we deeply appreciate it. And it keeps us, giving up our Saturdays and coming here to hang out with the most awesome group, the world's greatest chat group. Although I think Adam Curry would probably disagree with that. So you can do that by going, oh, yeah, that guy has a chat room. Holy cow. But again, go over to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome, and you can be an awesome supporter today. And of course, that always comes with an extra shout out. And speaking of shout outs, it's kind of funny this morning when I was over there at Reddit and Facebook, I saw this kind of stuff, which is, hey, I'm looking for an alternative to a highly unstable Riverside.fm. So I've always said that when it comes to Riverside or Squadcast or, Purple Castle, whatever, there's all these different names out there. And they're all kind of like eventually, like here's another one. This was from this morning. And that is, hey, Descript's getting kind of clunky. Is there another alternative to it? And there is a part of me that kind of goes, why can't we get something stable? And I guess we do. It's called StreamYard, and they tripled their prices. Maybe that's what you're paying for.
They just changed their front end too. I mean, I logged into StreamYard this week, and the controls at the bottom had changed, and I'm like, how do I?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's part. Yeah, nothing stays the same forever. This is the feedback loop problem, right? You continue to get feedback, so you change and change and change and change. You end up changing it so nobody can use it.
Yeah, and then you end up with something, like I played with what would be their studio sound on Descript, like the automatic cleanup thing, and it definitely made things sound better, but there wasn't as much control, and I was kind of like, not my fave. But it's just odd that, all of these, and I always say that's the path. Everybody loves it. Because I remember when I was at Podcast Movement, I think Evolutions, I had a lot of people say, oh man, Riverside is so much better. You need to come back. And I'm like, okay. So, but it's always like, it's the best. I just wish it did this one thing. And then the engineers add the one thing and they introduce a bunch of bugs. And everybody's like, what's the best alternative? And then they fix the bug and it comes back and we're back to, this is great. I just wish it did this one thing. And so I'm starting to just think wherever you're at, stay and they will fix it. Or, go find something else. But if you find something that's working, realize it's probably just a matter of time until it doesn't work again. And then you just have to, the thing is, always reach out to the company first. It doesn't really do much good to scream into a Reddit group that this isn't working, because most of the time the companies are not reading Reddit, so keep that in mind. Yes, Daniel, thank you for Once Upon a Time. I could not think of the name of the show. Chris says, going back to the Coca-Cola discussion, you can have Pepsi. Wait a minute, what's he say? If you step foot at a Coca-Cola property, you cannot have Pepsi on or even in your car. Yeah, that's one of the things about, again, I read this book by Justin Moore called Sponsor Magnet. And he talks about, that's a phrase that they will slip into a contract where it's like, you can't mention the competition for a year. And so their ad thing was for 3 months. The ad was good. They didn't renew. And then they went to, like, their competition came and said, hey, you had those guys as a sponsor. We'll give you some money. Yeah. So they did. Yeah. And they didn't realize in the previous contract that it said, yeah, you can't have our competition as a sponsor on your show for a year. And they got sued. And it's like, oh, oops, I didn't read that. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Listen, when you take on an advertising as a podcaster, when you take on an advertising spot for someone, you're agreeing to couple up to their brand, right? And if all of a sudden you're making a switch, or when the contract is over, if you start bringing in the competition, that's not like, now all of a sudden you've created brand confusion again, right? With people, they're like, hey, wait a minute. You used to be HelloFresh and now you're a Factor. They're actually owned by the same company now. So, yeah, but now you're a Factor. Like, that's for the company paying you to represent their brand, that's a problem. So make sure, to your point, Dave, make sure you're doing these advertising relationships that you are careful with that, to make sure they're okay on the, or they haven't added it into their contract at the very end. Does that mean you absolutely, if the contract says you don't have to do it, do you not have to do it? Yeah, you don't. I mean, your mileage might vary, but just be very, very careful in the, the longer you advertise for them and the more traction you get on your podcast, that's going to mean more to the advertiser. Now, you can use that in your favor too, and say, hey, like, I've built a pretty good brand for you. You might want to continue to, have me do this, right? That's all in the negotiation, right? There's no right or wrong on that. That's just all in the negotiation of the contract. So just make sure, I mean, you are coupling to their brand. A lot of folks know me as the HelloFresh guy, because in my podcast, we talked about HelloFresh a lot. I talked about it more than before it became real popular on YouTube, that everybody's doing HelloFresh, right? So I also, for a while in the tech space, became the Drobo guy. We talked about Drobo, a lot on my show. And so, now that gives an opportunity for another brand to swoop in there. If, like, in this case, another brand could have come in behind it and say, no, I'm going to pay you more to be favorable to my brand. Just be careful. Just be very, very careful in that space. They're paying you to be a representative of their brand, right?
Yeah. It's a really good book, and I'm lucky enough he's going to come on the School of Podcasting, so I'm excited to have him on. But it's all about, instead of like, how do I negotiate with the sponsor, he's like, no, get up from your side of the table, come around, sit next to them, and go, what are you trying to do by sponsoring my show? Let's work together as a partner. Very cool stuff. So, Jim, I can't believe that went really quick. I remember I looked up and I was like, man, it's only 11:15. And then we went from 11:15 to noon, like that.
When you did the awesome supporters, I kind of swore to God we'd done that already. I was like, didn't we do that once already today? But we hadn't. We had gone, it had gone so fast.
Yeah.
To the end here. Anyways, coming up on Home Gadget Geeks, I am at the end of my 3-week vacation, which was super nice to get away from podcasting. And so, as podcasters, you can take a vacation. So, did I produce anything? Nope. Did I have anything in the can? Nope.
Did anybody punch you in the face?
Nope.
Yeah,
I'm still here. Yeah, you can do it as well. Consider taking a vacation yourself. But if you want to catch what's going on, you can find it right now, homegadgetgeeks.com.
There you go. On the School of Podcasting, good friend of mine. I've known her forever. And I was like, how have you never been on the show? Tracy DeForge is coming on. And in general, it's kind of funny because Tracy kind of does everything. So we just kind of talked about everything podcasting. So that's coming up on the show. And then the week after that will be David Hooper, who is now on Sirius Satellite Radio. How cool is that? He's going to give the behind the scenes on how that happened. And so next week, it'll be fun. It'll be new and exciting. So go to askthepodcastcoach.com/live because that'll be a different landing page than usual. So thanks to the chat room. Thanks for the super chats. We appreciate that. And we will see you next week live from Nashville with another episode of Ask the Podcast Coach.